Hey friends, kind of tired today, but excited because I've just finished writing a new book. It's about 30 pages or so, smallish, but very focused, and it's only available to members of Gamkedo Club. And there's a reason for that, and that is that where it fits into our learning pipeline, basically it was driven by data of what problems people in our club encounter. And this has been one of the benefits of the fact that right now we've got about 80 members, maybe we've had about 150 or 200, somewhere in that range total in the past 3 years who've kind of been in or out. And what that's helped us do is really get a bird's eye view on where are the challenges people encounter. Where do people get stuck when they're following our process? And that's one of the things that differentiates what we do from so many other just video tutorials out there, so many other, that matter, classrooms out there. About how we do it is very driven by, we have a clear sequence. And basically what it's allowed me to do is I do these monthly surveys with our club members, identify what are our sticking points. Each month is different questions, kind of giving me a different vantage point on it. And from sort of collecting all that data, figured out where people were having the most difficulty leveling up, moving forward, advancing on. And even though this club's been going on after 3 years, it's something that really is a problem I'm working on since 2004, when we established the first club, and then 2010, the second club, and obviously, like I said, this current one since 2015. And basically what we figured out was that there's these set of issues that make it really hard for someone to get past video courses. Not just mine, any video courses out there. There's structural, systemic challenges that, if we're not careful, lead to over-reliance on the kind of hand-holding and direct guidance that courses do. And already, like my second video course, just like my textbook, is designed to wean people off of the video course a little bit. It stops being so specific. It stops saying, write this line, write that line, and gets more into, it looked like this, now make it look like that. Looked like that, now make it look like that. And there's answer keys and all that, but obviously it's designed, like I say, to kind of take the training wheels off. But here's a case where this new material, what it's all about is that there's really 3 structural problems that begin to develop if we're not careful that keep us from moving forward off of video courses. One of those is that we never had to learn how to figure out our own task. It was always handed to us in a video course. And so I've got a set of material in there about how to go about finding your own task in a live project context, in a real game, in a real thing that's open-ended, no answer key available. Secondarily, it prevents us from ever having to kind of picture our own steps. That it's not just about spotting one task, but seeing the bigger picture. And so I've got a whole chunk in the middle there that kind of trains you up to think like a project lead, which maybe about a third of our members who go through our pipeline wind up leads at some time or another of a team online collaborative project. And it sort of goes through the kind of thinking, the kind of ramp of how do I plan out steps from looking at a big vision for what I want. And of course, where this moves you towards is where you want to be, of I can come up with kind of an idea for what I want to build and then reverse engineer from that. What are the steps I need to go through? In what order? What are the decisions I have to make? What's the various kind of features I have to develop? And that's separate from, can you even tackle those technical challenges? Right? That's figuring out what are the questions you're asking yourself, separate from, okay, well then in 2 months from now, it's when I'm answering that question. 3 months from now, it's when I'm answering that question. And then third set of challenges around it are really that, one of the things I figured out is that when people do sort of, let's say they have no background, they come in through my video courses, through my textbook, so much about those video courses really wraps it around, you're doing this all in real and applied and practical context. And that's, of course, to compensate for how much of the other teaching out there is super just theoretical, disconnected from the work, and so on, in a way that is a very long, winding path for people to connect it to building games. And we know if you're in our context, you're mainly learning programming to build games with it. You might do other things with it, but that's what we focus you on. But the 2 challenges around that is that building entire games, there's so much complexity, there's so many different pieces leaning together, that when someone gets finished with the video course and 5 hours later, they've produced a few games, they're exhausted and they say, but I probably couldn't start from a blank file and rewrite that. And that's expected, because it took me many years of experience before I could write those games without having sort of a starting point or without sort of checking material or reference. And so instead what I've developed are these essentially short abstract exercises that are designed to be focused enough that the first time you solve it, you can check the answers. The second time you solve it, you can peek less. The third time you solve it, not because you're memorizing it, but because you are starting to internalize what are the steps. You're starting to internalize what are the factors. You're starting to internalize why was this the way that it was the previous time. But it makes these much more practicable, and moreover, in a way that's completely and deliberately disconnected from game concepts. Because one of the things that also happens is that in a lot of learning materials, it gets very distracted by these game terms. And so just an example of this, right? So the other day we had someone was trying to figure out how to add a dialogue system, and they were doing the wrong thing. They were searching the internet for how to write a dialogue system. Incorrect. What you want is enough of an understanding of the fundamentals of programming and of spatial relationships and of data organization so that you can come up with a variety of different ways you could develop a dialogue system depending on what kind of things you need your dialogue system to do. That it's not that the problem can be thought of from this high level and then acted on, because that's going to wind up with this very much this sort of template approach. It's just like we talked about with the whole project. You want to be able to picture that end in mind and reverse engineer what are the steps that build it. But that requires practice in just sort of these more abstract relationships, just more raw code practice in a way that helps equip you spatially what's going on so you can build up your own solutions rather than being reliant upon finding and walking through a tutorial of how someone else handled it. But anyway, those are 3 things. They're all put up in this book. I'm calling it currently, at least internally, Gamkedo Udemy to Teams supplement. I mean, obviously, we're Gamkedo. Udemy is where our video courses are. Teams is the objective we're trying to bridge you towards through this material. And then supplement because, frankly, it's optional. We have operated for 3 years. We've had plenty of members be successful without it. But what we figured out is out of our entire progression, this was the point where there was sort of the most bumps along the road, most sticking point that we found some people found challenging or weren't quite sure what to do next on. And so that's what I'm continuously doing is I'm looking at our process, gathering data, interviewing, discussing, meeting with our people, figuring out where can we improve this so it's a smoother path and pipeline for everybody doing it. Boy, that's now available as part of Gamkedo Club. It's so new that it's not yet on the website. It's not yet in the orientation video. It's not yet anywhere besides in our club on when members sign into their sign-in page. That's where they find it. And it, like I say, it fits into our overall process of our intro video courses that assume no background, on up into being involved on live teams, and eventually, for those who choose to, leading teams on original concepts. But that's it for today. I just want to share this great news, how excited I am about having finished this set of exercises to tackle these challenges that were kind of invisible to us for the longest time, but are really core to helping increase more people's success in our organization, which of course translates for them to success building their own video games. Thank you as always for tuning in. I'll have another video for you all soon.